Hey, what's up? Hello. If you're new here, my name is Kayla and you are watching Kayla's Bookish Vibes. I am editing the video that you're currently watching and I realized I never introduced it. In today's video, we are going to be reading new release thrillers that have been on my radar. These are books that I have been anticipating coming out, so I wanted to go ahead and start reading them in today's video. I just wanted to put them all in one vlog, and that's what you're getting. The first book we're going to be reading is One of Us Knows by Alyssa Cole, and then by Sally Hepworth, Darling Girls. I love Sally Hepworth. I am working my way through her catalog and I was so excited to see that this was a book of the month pick so that I could get it in my book of the month subscription box. So these are the 3 books that we are going to be reading in today's video, and without further ado, let's get into it. Alright folks, we're in the car, but I wanted to give you briefly my thoughts on One of Us, my initial thoughts. One of Us by Alyssa Cole. Okay guys, try to follow me. I'm going to try my best to articulate my words in a way that you all can understand. So far what's happening in this book, we have met our main character, Ken. Ken has just woken up in her body. I think I have said on multiple occasions when I've given a brief synopsis of this book, Ken has DID, or dissociative identity disorder. So she has multiple identities that live within her. She has just woken up to be like the driver, the forefront of she's the main identity right now. And before her, someone else named Della was driving the boat, so to speak, okay? The boat is the body. Della was driving the boat for 6 years. Ken has been dormant in her body for 6 years, through some of which has been COVID has been happening. So when she finally comes back into her body, she asks another one of her identities named Solomon, like, what have I missed since I've been gone? And he just kind of gives her the rundown of honestly what our world is today. On fire. So she's trying to mentally tackle that, but she's also trying to figure out, well, why am I here on this dock? What's going on? Apparently Della, the identity that has been driving the boat, has accepted a job offer for them to become like a caretaker of this mansion slash castle on like an island. Her alters honestly end up telling her she doesn't have a choice but to take this job because life has been happening and they don't have anywhere else to go. I'm gathering that Ken doesn't actually want to drive the boat. She would rather just be dormant, but she doesn't have a choice. So she gets on this boat to go over to the island, and she meets the guy driving the boat, and he's giving her like a rundown, the history of this island. She's getting these vibes like this is probably where we really shouldn't be here, but we're going. I'm intrigued. It's a very smart, and I don't know any other word besides confusing, but in the best way possible. I've never read anything with dissociative identity disorder present, and the way that we are exploring it through all of the different identities is creative and enjoyable to read, but it also is just like, what am I reading? For so little to have happened in like the first 10 chapters that I've read, I feel like I'm just now buckling in for a real good mental ride, and I'm here for it. I'm enjoying the fact that I'm having to use a little brain power to muscle through it. So we have our identities that we're going through. What I feel like what I love most about that is they each have their own distinct personalities and their own voices. And you can hear it when you read it. Like, you know that you're reading a different identity and that this identity is completely different from another. They're not all the same sex. They're not all the same color. They obviously have like very distinct personalities, and I love the fact that that comes through on the page. Like, it's very clear when you're reading it. It reminds me a lot of the movie Split, because although the same person was playing all of those characters, when you watch that movie, you knew instantly when the identities took over, when a new identity took over. And that's how I feel reading this book. I can't wait to get further into it. I don't really know what else to say for my initial thoughts, other than I'm really enjoying the challenge of reading it. And I really hope that this book lands in the hands of the right people. It's going to get bad reviews when it shouldn't. I don't know. The thriller community can be like, they either want very quick popcorn thrillers that don't take much brain power but are very thrilling, and those get like 5 stars. Freedom McFadden. Or they want things like this, but the people who want things like this are outnumbered. So I don't know. I'm loving it though, and I can't wait to continue. I'll come back to you guys when I have clearer thoughts and when I can really get my words together. But those are my true, real, raw initial thoughts, and I'm now going to go enjoy the evening with my husband. And no kids. The car seats are empty. Y'all, we finished. One of Us Knows by Alyssa Cole. My immediate reaction, this is like within 30 minutes of reading this book. My immediate reaction is going to be to give this book a 5 star. Not a 5 star, a 4 star. We're gonna give it a 4 star. It's going to be a 4 star. If my rating changes, it could go up, it could go down. If it changes, it's because I sat with this book for a little while and I just kind of thought about it, you know, for a few days. But right now, immediately after finishing this book, 4 star. I loved it. There's so many mixed reviews on this book. I actually have a mutual that I follow on Bookstagram, Book Talk, and here on BookTube. I think I follow her on all of the bookish platforms. I will leave her channel linked down below, and I'll also put a photo of it here. She just recently did an author taste test of this book, and she absolutely hated it. She hated this book, and I couldn't disagree more. After watching her video, I'm like, I disagree with everything you just said, but it was interesting to watch her review in someone who has like the complete opposite take on what you just read. I do highly recommend her channel though. I love all of her bookish content, and you should definitely check her out. But I already knew, like, and I think I even mentioned it on this video, that there are going to be people a lot of people, I feel like, a majority of people, I feel like, who don't like this book because it's not your typical thriller. It's not like a fast-paced, something is happening all the time. There's a very slow buildup. And I feel like this book is more of a like case study of DID. It's more of a case study looking into dissociative identity disorder. And because I'm so into like psychological disabilities, and I was into it, like invested 1000%. All of the characters, or all of the identities within this central main character, were interesting to me. And I love the fact that I personally could tell them all apart because they were so different. So we have like different age groups. There's one who's like a Gen Z, she's a teenager, and even just like the slang she uses, and the fact that she's like super into manga, and how she always brings that up in like all of her conversations. I loved that. There's a 4-year-old who, I won't go into that because I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a 4-year-old. There's a man, there's almost like a romance subplot. I guess like a subplot of a subplot. There's like a romance within this main character, but they're all within the same like identity ecosystem. It's so trippy. It's so trippy, and I loved it because I've never read anything like it. The creativity needed to write this book dictates that it needs a 4 star, especially with thrillers, when all thrillers are like basically the same thing. They're using the same tropes, the same plots. It's just like, can we get something creative? This is someone giving you something creative. I don't know of another thriller that has DID representation. If you do, please leave it down below because I would love to check it out. But I felt like this was just explored and explained in such an interesting way. And I highly recommend this book. You may not love it, especially if you're really into like fast-paced popcorn thrillers, but I still think you should check it out because you may be pleasantly surprised. I really enjoyed it. And can't wait to check out more from this author. How there were parts where it was just super relatable as a Black woman. There were just so many relatable things that were said and how it was worded. And I live for that in thrillers. I live for that in any genre, but especially in thrillers where that's not found often. I loved it. Highly recommend. Next, though, I think we're going to get into Sally Hepworth's book, Darling Girls. This has been on my anticipated reads list. Honestly, this one was probably even more anticipated than this one, and it did not disappoint. It did not disappoint me. It may disappoint others, which I've called it. I kind of already knew that there were going to be a lot of people who didn't like this book. I loved it. But anyway, this is also an anticipated reads list. I love Sally Hepworth. I feel like she writes the best domestic thrillers, which is usually just like a slice of life and there's somehow someone's dead in it. That's what this is probably going to give, but I feel like she does it in such a great way. So I can't wait to get into this. I may try to pick up the audio for this if I can get it. It's pretty new, and Sally Hepworth is a pretty popular author when it comes to thrillers. So it's probably not available on my Libby. There's probably a very long hold on it, and I'm probably just gonna have to read it physically. But I do want to get this video up soon-ish. So we may just have to push through. How many pages is it? That's not bad. Okay, it's only 355 pages, which isn't bad. I can read this in like a day or two. So we'll get cracking on this. I'll let you guys know my initial thoughts after I have started this book. We are about 100 pages in, and so far so good. It's everything that I knew Miss Hepworth would be. She just does an amazing job at telling a story, folks. I've come to the conclusion that Sally Hepworth just does a really good job at telling a story. She strikes the best balance between characters, like good characters and good character development, and getting you attached to the characters, as well as also giving you a really good plot, a really good story to cling to. I feel like she strikes the balance, and that's why I really love her books. As someone who is more character driven, I appreciate the time that she takes to flesh out and develop her characters, because you become attached to them, whether you really hate them or you are cheering for them, rooting for them, and you're in love with them. You feel something for her characters. And for me, if the plot is really good, but I feel nothing for the characters, then I don't really care about the plot. And that's probably why I really enjoyed One of Us Knows by Alyssa Cole, because that was an extremely character-driven thriller. This is no different. It's very character-driven, but there also is such a good plot. So far, within 100 pages, we have met our three main characters. They are foster sisters, Jessica, Nora, and Alicia. They all grew up in foster care, and they were sent to the same home ran by Mrs. Fairchild. She lives on a farm. So the three sisters are still intact, or still in contact with each other, like in present day, because we're getting two timelines. We're getting the past and the present. In the past, we're getting to know each girl and a little bit of her backstory and how she ended up in Miss Fairchild's care. And then the present, we're getting the three of them. They're still, like I said, in contact, still very close, have a close relationship. And each of them have received a phone call from a detective letting them know that there's an investigation going on at the farm that they grew up on. Something has been uncovered. There have been human remains uncovered at the farm, and now there's a present day investigation going on. And each girl is getting a call from the detective saying, hey, we need you to come back so that we can figure out what's going on here. Who do these remains belong to? Like I said, in the past timeline, we're just getting to know the girls, and we're like slowly uncovering some things that happened to them in Miss Fairchild's care. Miss Fairchild is not a nice woman. Although she presents well, she does some horrible things. What she chooses to do to the girls is more psychological warfare than anything else. And on the front of the book, it says revenge is sweet. So I'm assuming, personally, this is not a spoiler because I have no clue if I'm right or wrong, but I'm assuming that the human remains that were found on the farm belong to Mrs. Fairchild. We don't know though. We don't know yet if she's still alive, if the remains are hers, if the remains belong to someone else. We just don't know yet. Something else that I really enjoy about Sally Hepworth's writing is she keeps her chapters very short, which makes her books extremely bingeable. Because our chapters are so short, you find yourself getting to the end of the chapter and then maybe like flipping ahead to see how many pages are in the next chapter. And because it's so short, you're like, I'll just read another chapter, and you read another chapter, and you read another chapter. And then soon you realize you're like 10 chapters in. Her books are extremely bingeable. The plot is good. The story is interesting. The characters are fleshed out, well developed, and the chapters are short, which is why you always want to read her books in one day. If you have never read a book by Sally Hepworth, I highly recommend that you pick one up. Honestly, all of the books that I've read by her so far have been really good, and I've enjoyed them all. So far, my favorite has been The Soulmate. Depending on how this one ends, I don't know, maybe that will top The Soulmate, or it'll be right up there with it. But I have never given Sally Hepworth's book less than a 4-star rating, I'm pretty sure. I've enjoyed all of them. I feel like if you're really into fast-paced thrillers, you'll enjoy her. Way more than someone like a Frida McFadden, okay? No shade against Big Frida. I know the girlies love Big Frida. But something about her books, I'm always just like, there's better. Better has been done. Better has been written. And Sally Hepworth just writes better. So highly recommend that you pick up one of her books. Honestly, any of her books, if you haven't checked her out already. So far, everything I've told you has pretty much been the synopsis. So far, I know everything and have seen everything that's happened in the synopsis within the first 100 pages. We still have quite a few chapters and pages left of this book. So I'm really excited to see where Sally Hepworth takes us on this trip. I will guys let you know my updated thoughts once I get further into the book. Y'all, I almost forgot about y'all. I can't even lie. We have to finish this vlog. I have finished the book. I just want you to know. I have finished Sally Hepworth's Darling Girls. I don't have it with me because, as you can see, I'm in the car. We are out of town. It's finally wedding weekend. If you've been watching, then you know I'm in my cousin's wedding as a bridesmaid, which has been so exciting. I've really enjoyed this journey, and now it's finally wedding weekend, and we're in town. It is pouring rain. It's like raining cats and dogs right now. So I think we're gonna hide out until it stops raining and then go to the rehearsal dinner that's a little bit. But I needed to tell you guys my final thoughts on Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I loved it. Nothing has really changed. I will say I thought I was like getting all the guesses right. I thought I was anticipating everything, but I was wrong. Everything I thought was going to happen, I was absolutely wrong about. But I did enjoy the book. That was the one thing that I was right about. This was an anticipated 5-star read for me. It didn't end up being 5 stars, it was 4 stars, but it was still a really good thriller. Something that I enjoyed was that Sally Hepworth didn't go as dark as she could have gone with this book. And I remember thinking like while reading, like, oh man, I hope she doesn't go like super dark with this because I can't handle it. My mental cannot handle it. Some horrible things happened, but she didn't go as dark as she could have gone. I also really appreciated the character development, and by the end of the book where all of the characters stood, I really appreciated that. I felt like there was lots of growth. She does a really good job at writing women fiction, like chick lit, like women's fiction, but with a thrilling aspect to it. So obviously each woman was going through their own individual trauma or problem, and by the end of the book they've all had some sort of resolution. And I really appreciate that about Sally Hepworth's books. It's that they're thrillers, but they usually have a little bit something more to say, and they usually lean towards like women, motherhood, sisterhood, things like that. Same was found in this book. So the 2 books that we read, One of Us Knows by Alyssa Cole, ended up being a 4-star, and Sally Hepworth's Darling Girls ended up being a 4-star. They were both very character-driven thrillers, which I'm learning is something that I really enjoy. I really enjoy good characters, good character development in my books, including in my thrillers, as well as a nice plot. I do recommend them both, but I feel like different readers would enjoy both of the books in a different way. So if you've read any of these books, please let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts were. I'm really interested. If you have read One of Us Knows by Alyssa Cole, what was your star rating and what were your thoughts? If they were opposite of mine, please still tell me. Like, I'm very interested in knowing how people are receiving that book, and I've been seeing a lot of mixed reviews. So please leave your comments down below if you've read that book with no spoilers. And if you've read Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth or any book by Sally Hepworth, let me know down in the comments below what you thought about her books as well. Thank you so much if you made it to the end of today's video. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all in our next video. Bye.